Welcome to the Retirement with and On Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Lawson, and this show is all about helping you not just reach retirement, but truly thrive in it. You've put in the work, now let's make sure you can enjoy every moment to the fullest. Today, we're back with a topic that is designed to get you to think about how you are saving and perhaps dispel or at least present a counter argument to a long-held belief in the financial world. So I'll be referencing today an article titled, "Should I Max Out My 401k? The Surprising Truth." And this article was written in 2023 by Nick Maggiulli. And he references a lot of interesting data that I thought would be good food for thought for us to digest together. So today's all about, should I max out my 401k and the potential ramifications of doing that or not doing that. So let's jump right in. For most listeners, this is probably a little redundant, but the basics of a 401k, let's just quickly revisit that. So a 401k plan, as Nick mentions in his article, is a retirement savings account sponsored by an employer, which allows employees to save and invest a portion of their paycheck into a tax-advantaged investment portfolio. So 401k, just for most of you, again, this is redundant, but it's an employer-sponsored retirement plan. For 2024, the employee contribution limits for those that are age 50 and under is $23,000. That's how much an employee can contribute to their 401k. For those ages 50 and up, you can add an additional $7,500 on top of that $23,000. So for those ages 50 and up, their annual contribution limit to the 401k is $30,500. So with those numbers, I mean, it's a sizable amount that we can save in a tax-advantaged retirement account. So why is this potentially problematic, or why is this potentially maybe not the best use of our monies? So moving on in Nick's article here, the potential downsides that many of us don't always hone in on when we're thinking about saving in a 401k, the potential drawbacks are, one, limited investment choices. So most employer-sponsored retirement plans have a handful of investments that you can choose from. The nice thing about that is it keeps things simple and really lowers the barrier of entry for people just starting out saving. Simple is oftentimes better because it allows people to get started without getting overwhelmed. So limited investment options for those getting started is not a bad thing necessarily, but for those that have been saving for a while and have built up a healthy balance in their 401k, limited investment options may or may not be the best thing for their portfolio. Fees and administrative costs. So sometimes, especially with smaller 401k plans, the fees, may be larger than the investor may think. So fees and administrative costs are just something to be aware of with these 401k plans. For large employees, thankfully, they're able to offer their employees a 401k at a reduced cost just based on the number of participants. But for smaller plans, it's something certainly to keep an eye on. The biggest downside to 401ks, in my professional opinion, and as Nick points out in his article here, is the illiquidity and early withdrawal penalties. So I'll quote here, 401k accounts are generally less liquid than other investment accounts due to restrictions on withdrawals before the age of 59 and a half. While you technically can withdraw your contributions from a Roth 401k, it's generally not a good practice because 401ks should be seen as a retirement vehicle. Additionally, early withdrawals from a 401k account are typically subject to a 10% penalty in addition to being taxed as ordinary income. So 401ks should be looked at as a long-term retirement savings vehicle to be accessed in most cases after age 59 and a half when one is retired. And as I noted, the withdrawal penalties for accessing that money sooner are quite hefty. So what all that means is you get less financial optionality and flexibility. By maxing out your 401k, you may be overly concentrating, Nick points out, your wealth in tax-deferred accounts, potentially limiting your financial flexibility and tax planning options in your future. So I've seen this a handful of times with people that have done a really good job saving in their tax-deferred retirement accounts, 401ks or other similar vehicles. And they get to retirement and they anticipated being in a lower tax bracket at retirement than they were when they're working. But because they did such a good job saving and all of their money is, or not all of it, but a large portion is tied up in their pre-tax 401k plan, when they go to replace the income they were earning as an employee with these pre-tax dollars, it's quite a bit that they're having to take out and pay taxes on. And oftentimes their tax rate's not changing a lot. And so you've really, in a way, pigeonholed yourself into having your retirement monies in an account that's going to be subject to tax, which makes us, very susceptible to rising tax rates in the future, which is Nick's last point. Higher future tax rates is a major potential drawback to saving, especially in a pre-tax 401k. Roth 401k, higher tax rates would not impact that because you've already paid the taxes. But for pre-tax traditional 401ks, if tax rates go up, when you take that money out in retirement, you're going to be paying taxes at the higher rate. So I point out all that out because what Nick does later in his article is a comparison of saving in a Roth 401k and a traditional brokerage account. So I'll kind of quote him again just to give you a better sense of what he's trying to determine here. And that way you'll see some real numbers tied to the tax benefit of maxing out your 401k. So Nick says, to find the long-term tax benefits of maxing out your 401k, I will compare a $10,000 annual investment into a Roth 401k versus a $10,000 annual investment into a taxable account, i.e. brokerage, over 30 years. Note, I am using a Roth 401k and not a traditional 401k because I only want to figure out the benefit of avoiding capital gains taxes in a 401k. So that's the big thing with a taxable brokerage account that's different from a 401k. These brokerage accounts are subject to capital gains taxes over time. For this comparison, he also assumed that both accounts grew at 5% a year and that the taxable account had to pay the long-term capital gains rate of 15% on a 2% annual dividend. And when the portfolio was sold in the last year, at the end of 30 years, this means that no sales were made in the taxable account until retirement, when all long-term capital gains taxes are paid. So after running this simulation for 30 years, he found that the Roth 401k ended up with $114,000 more than the taxable account after all capital gains taxes had been paid. $114,000 sounds like, a bigger balance certainly, and rather large from just starting out with saving $10,000 a year. But when you break that down over a 30-year period, you actually get 0.73% in extra return each year to lock up your capital until you are age 59 and a half. So I think that's the sticker shock point for me. That's what really caught my attention. So essentially, to have your money locked up for a 30-year period, you're getting an extra 0.73% in extra return by investing in the Roth 401k versus a traditional brokerage account. Some would argue that that's worth it because while it's only 0.73%, it's still 0.73% more. But some would argue that they would rather have the flexibility to be able to access their money over that 30-year period rather than being handcuffed and having to wait until they turn age 59 and a half. It's now, after having read this and having had a chance to digest this and really think through real life scenarios that I've seen with clients, it's for so long, it's been preached as a financial advisor to clients to try and get to the point where we're maxing out our 401ks every year just to really help us with our taxes if we're saving in the traditional 401k plan and really bolster our retirement savings. And that's a great practice for those that maybe aren't as financially disciplined or, like having that ability to have their contributions deducted from their paycheck, because it really takes the onerous off of the individual having to receive the money and then go invest it separately in their brokerage account. The nice thing about a 401k is it can be automatically payroll deducted and put in their 401k. But for those that maybe are disciplined or would like the ability to potentially access monies prior to age 59 and a half, having access to additional investment options could potentially help clear that hurdle of the difference in performance that Nick noted here. And again, give you the flexibility to access monies while you're saving for retirement if you ever needed to. So I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. I just wanted to share this article and this study with you all just to get you thinking about one of the long accepted beliefs that maxing out your 401k is oftentimes the best way to go about saving for retirement. It certainly is for those that appreciate the behavioral finance help of having monies being payroll deducted, out of sight, out of mind. But for those that are able to receive the money from their paycheck and then invest it on their own, there could be an opportunity to create flexibility and just as much money in a long-term investment vehicle using alternative accounts like a traditional brokerage account. That's it for today. Food for thought, as always. Until next time, take care of yourself, and I'll look forward to reconnecting soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Retirement with and On Purpose podcast. I hope you're walking away with new ideas and a fresh perspective on how to make the most of your retirement journey. And remember, retirement isn't the end. It's your time to live with purpose. Until next time, I'm Trevor Lawson. Here's to a fulfilling and thriving retirement.